Hi, Sheila.
Hi, Catherina Mirasol. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Awesome sauce. Um, so let me just make a little brief introduction. I'm Sheila Slaughter. That's right, Slaughter. I kill them with kindness unless otherwise provoked. I like to say that. And then I am the founder of BohemianWomanRising.com, where we challenge social constructs in pursuit of spiritual transformation. And a part of that, under the umbrella of Bohemian Woman Rising, I have BWR trinkets where I handcraft my own jewelry and sell them. And if you want to learn more about that, feel free to visit my Bohemian Woman Rising Instagram account. You can see all of my wares there. And then what we're doing today, right now, is having a Fierce Boho Woman segment where I promote and spotlight emerging and established women in business, and they can share their experiences and wisdom and insights about their journey. And again, we have with us today Catherina Mirasol, who is actually just launching her Project 5356. And I have to tell you the story behind, which we'll hear more from that. We'll hear more of it from Catherine. It's very compelling and moving. So with that, Marisol, Catherina Mirasol, you have the stage.
Thank you, Sheila. Thank you so much. So I did. I launched last month, so it's still fairly new, and I'm working on, getting more clients so that I can work. My audience is small business and service-based small business and nonprofits who are growing, so they're feeling growing pains, and I provide grant consultation as well as operations consultation for them and their team if they have a team. So
Mhm.
far, a lot of people I've been working with is really like a team of one, plus some interns and volunteers. But still, a team is a team,
Yes.
and you want to make sure that largely nonprofits I've been working on, they have a vision, they see what they want to do, where they want to be, how they want to provide their services in the world, and how they want to make an impact. And I'm just like so happy to be able to speak with them and see how we can work together to get them to where they want to be.
That's exceptional. Um, can you share more about your journey and your passion for starting Project 5356, especially um, when you speak of your mother's experience? That was so moving and touching.
Yes, so thank you for asking. My mother, when we were growing up, she had stores. I think she had like three stores, one after the other, and she always wanted to be a business, run her own business. And they were Filipino grocery stores. And at some point, I think when my youngest brother was born, she ended up, they realized it just was not working out. What she was trying, what she wanted to happen, she was not able to get to the next level. And, in hindsight, when I look back, I always think about, because this was back in the 80s, early 80s and late 70s, that if she had more support as an immigrant, because she had just come, in the early 70s with my family, she had come and she knew that there were supports and she knew who she could reach out to if she was having problems, that, that she would have still be, a store owner. But,
Hmm.
after she had her fourth child, my youngest brother, my father and her realized, they really needed to be a stable two
Hmm.
income household. So she ended up working, getting a job, a few jobs, but she landed at working for the federal government,
Hmm.
in which she stayed in for like, I would say about 30 years. But she was, she really loved the work she was doing. She enjoyed, for the most part, the people she worked with, but she would get so frustrated because she would see a lot of people who had less education than her get promoted to higher positions.
Hmm.
So when my mom came here, she was already a CPA in the Philippines. She already had graduated and, was a professional. But that doesn't translate here. So in her, not being able to continue having a business and in wanting to move up in her career, she's very ambitious. It just was not happening. She even went to NYU to, start a master's in public administration. And even with that, when she would apply for the next grade in her job, she just was not considered. And, she would come home really frustrated and angry. And, you know, she felt that there was a great injustice done in the sense that other people who did not have her same education, who she felt like, she was more qualified, equal or more qualified than them, and was not getting to the next level. She really felt very, like there was a great misjustice done. And but she stayed at the job. She stayed at the job because she knows she needed the benefits.
Hmm.
She knew she was going to get a pension, and that she had a family. Her and my dad, had to work two jobs. We were all going to go to college, and it's a lot of money to raise four kids in the States.
Indeed.
So, my father, our father passed away in 2011, and even though he was very sick, my mother still worked, her full-time job. She would take care of my dad. She did have some support. We helped when we could, but she would be up largely, like not able to get a good night's sleep and still go into work. And so when our father passed away, my mother decided that, soon after she was also going to retire because she was just, the exhaustion finally kicked in. And she was pretty much lived her life, had her pension, had my dad's social security, and but still like had carried a lot of hurts from, her business not being the business owner that she wanted, for the getting her pension, and staying at a job for 30 years and not being where she wanted to be there. So she passed away August of 2024. Complications, I would imagine. Thank you. It just sounds like, complications from having high blood pressure and all of that. But when she passed away, we were her beneficiaries for her pension. And it took forever, first of all, to get the payment from the pension. But when we did, which is where my name comes from, when we did get the payout, it was only $53.56. And that really hit me, like for me anyway, like each one of us.
Sure.
So, times four, that's like about $200. And I was like, so you mean if my mother was alive one more month, she'd only have $200 from her pension? Like that just that
Hmm.
did not make sense to me. I mean, I'm not sure how that's calculated, but I mean, $53.56, just remembering all the years my mother was at that job, frustrated, angry, coming home and just so miserable because she just, you know, it's a dream unfulfilled. She had a passion, she had a drive. I don't know that she had the support, to get where she wanted. I don't know that she didn't have anyone to speak to about that other than my father. And like the family, what I'm learning in this business journey is if you want to have a business, your family should be sharing in your wins, but you need
Mm.
the community to share in your struggles because your family
Mm.
won't understand because your family just wants to see you um, wants to see you happy and fulfilled. But running a business is a whole other thing than being employed 9 to 5. And it requires resilience, which I know my mother had. It requires grit, which I know my mother had. But I don't know that she had the community. So I always think of that when I'm working with clients, potential clients. You know, People have a dream, and sometimes you just need someone to be there to listen, to help untangle the thoughts,
Yes.
to be your cheerleader. And I'm just so grateful that there is, having stepped into this world back last year in like January 2024, to realize that there are resources and supports for your business owners, that are closer than taking a class and then like you become alum. It's like you have to form an actual community because
Yes.
you just need that backing. You got to be a part of that, and staying in touch with them and doing all of that is just so important because there's lots of peaks, but also the valleys are valleys when
Yeah.
you're in
Deep
business.
valleys.
Yeah, deep, deep valleys. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's basically why I'm doing this. I mean,
Yeah.
myself, I was at a job for 18 and a half years, which is the longest I've ever been at a job, working in the workforce, continuing it in workforce development, where I learned a lot. I learned a lot.
Hmm.
I have a lot of skills under my tool belt, especially when it comes to grants,
Hmm.
budgeting, finance, maintaining budgets, hiring, all of that, which are the skills I'm bringing to my business so that I can, sort of help provide that.
And grant
50
writing and
yeah, grant writing, grant administration, grant management,
teaching.
staff hiring, staff management, operations, all of that is where I learned that at my job in 18 and a half years, but I realized I was like, I'm really working a lot of hours at this job. I'm
Mhm.
doing the work of essentially two people, but my paycheck is not,
Yes.
the same. I said, well, if I could do this, I know I can hustle. I know I have the grit. If
Hmm.
I could do this for myself, at least I could have control over how much money I can bring
Absolutely.
in. There's not going to be a ceiling like it's not, I don't have a salary, you know?
I hear that from so many women over the years. They're seeking their own economic agency. They're moving away from the corporate arena because it's just not fulfilling, and it's no longer fulfilling for them
Yeah.
economically, professionally. So yeah, what you're saying resonates deeply. And while my mom is still alive, yeah, she was predominantly a single mom raising four kids. So I resonate with what you're saying there in terms of your mother's experience. May she rest in peace.
Yeah. Thank you.
Um, while you were sharing that story, what came to mind was that we live in a social scarcity construct, and women suffer deeply within that. Access to employment, the pay gap. Um, it's terrible. So I did a light search when women entered the workforce. This is not considering that we're always working in the home, but according to I think it was Wikipedia, it was during World War I where women formally entered the workforce during the war, and how were they treated? They were harassed on. They were demeaned, discriminated against for their efforts. I mean, really? I mean, our men were all fighting a war, but these women who had families, but still went to work, abandoning their families for the war effort. That's understandable, I guess, for the time. But still, they came up against so much discrimination and harassment. And that was, I think, as 86 years ago. But we still deal with these issues and dynamics today. So I don't know what that forebodes for the future of the corporate arena and for women, but clearly we're seeing women shifting away from
Mhm.
the corporate arena because of these issues that we can't society just can't seem to ameliorate for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And that's more rhetorical than for whatever reason it's rhetorical.
Lots of
But
reasons, but like which one?
yeah, exactly. Um, but I wanted to move on to now ask you a few questions, if that's okay. I wanted you to share one or two unexpected surprises you've encountered during the establishment of your business. I know you're still early on in the process, but I'm sure you have a couple of gems in there.
Wow. Okay. So surprises. Um, surp- I'm trying to think. In the meantime, my eyes are tearing. Sorry about that. Um, I would say that, one surprise is that I have to constantly fight with myself to break out of the 9 to 5 mindset. And by that I meant I'm beholden to myself. I'm literally my own boss. Like I know it here, but getting it down here is a whole other story, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm my own boss, so I get to call my own shots, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, and again, it's like it's one thing to say it, and it's one thing to actually wake up day every day living it. You're just like, oh, and my alarm would go off. I'd freak out. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to be late. And I'm like, but late for what? I create my own schedule. Like, who's going to tell me? Who's going to write me up for
You're
being
the
late?
boss.
I'm the boss. Wait a minute. Um, so with that, I say it's a surprise because, like I'm very logical. I'm very rational, which, it's harmful, but also helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Um, harmful in that I tend to keep everything here. So I rationalize something that happens, good
Mm-hmm.
or bad, I rationalize why, but instead of like sitting with it and letting absorb it. And so that's one surprise, just the whole understanding of, oh my gosh, I really can control how I manage my day, how I manage my time, even more important, how I manage my energy.
Yes.
If I'm tired, I'm sleeping. You know, I exactly. It's like I try to keep my meetings booked to like certain days in the week where I know that because like usually coming off a weekend, I still do my weekends like a weekend. So, it's that whole managing my schedule is a lot more it's a lot trickier than I thought it was going to be. But
Mhm.
also I can sleep when I want to sleep.
Yeah.
The other surprise I had was just how spiritual having your own business is, right?
Oh,
Because you're
spiritually empowering.
spiritually empowering, and it's also like your business is your baby. Like I
Yeah.
never thought of it in that way. So, like you're happy when you finally have your baby. I got my LLC, I got my, tax ID number, I got all of that. And it's just like, wow, and I got my own bank account for the business. It's like, oh my gosh, it's a real person, it's a real entity. I want to nurture it. And like none of that really, coming out of the employee mindset where you're just like, I'm just doing a job. Like I am not just doing a job. I am
Mhm.
birthing this. This is my child. I need to watch it grow. I want to feed it. I want to make sure it's getting all the right attention, that it needs so that it can develop. And also, as people, I think we naturally want to be helpful and be part of a community. So
Mhm.
one of my, when I think about when I, talk about manifesting, it's like I want my business to have a positive impact in the community, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not just, money is great. Would also
Yes.
love to make a lot of money, but it means nothing if it's not making a positive impact.
Oh, that's beautiful. And I definitely relate to time management. I'm so results oriented. I'm like Speedy Gonzalez.
Uh-huh.
And while that probably worked well in the corporate arena, I've recognized over the years that I need to slow it down. You know, it's you don't have to finish a project too sweet. I get this. I put a time frame. I'll have a time frame in my head, and if I don't meet it, I'll start beating myself up. I'm like, what the
Yeah.
hell are you doing?
Yes.
It's you. It's your business. You set the pace.
Right.
I
Right.
totally agree with. I identify with what you're saying there so much. Um,
Like why put ourselves on the edge needlessly, right? It's like,
yeah, I mean that's sort of conditioning, right?
yes.
From the corporate arena.
Hmm.
And so the upside of that is that we are cultivating our own agency now
Yeah.
in our own way, however we want that to look. So
Yep.
that's beautiful. That's the upside, and that's beautiful. Um, so, what are some of your goals over the next 3 to 5 years?
3 to 5 years. Okay, so I do want to have, I want to have formed a team around me. It doesn't have to be a big team, but there are people, when I think about my career, there are people I really enjoyed working with, and I would love to work with them again.
Beautiful.
So I don't have to hire, it doesn't have to be me hiring them situation. It could be like, independent contractors, because everybody should decide, I feel, on
Hmm.
how it's going to work for them. But I
Hmm.
would love to work, I would love to have a small team. I would love to see financially the business, thriving.
Hmm.
I would also, with that, love to see that my clients are thriving.
Yes.
Um, if we're going to put like numbers to that, I would say that in, 3 to 5 years, I would have at least um, a portfolio of like at least 20 solid clients
Hmm.
who I'm working closely with to help their organizations grow. Um, and that if they aren't already, that they're hitting six figures,
Hmm.
consistent six figures every year, if not seven for them.
Hmm.
I haven't thought about mine. That's a scarier, putting a number to mine is a scarier concept, I think.
Yes.
Um, but I just like as long as my bills get paid, my business is self-sustaining. Right now, I'm good with that.
Yeah, I can see how that's intimidating. It's like, but maybe one approach would be to just keep that number in the back of your mind and just keep
Yeah.
moving forward. But it lives somewhere in the back of your mind, and you're just moving forward, whether it's leaps and bounds or baby steps. At
Mhm.
least that's my motto. It's like
Mhm.
um, it doesn't matter how I'm moving forward as long as I continue that
Agree.
forward motion.
Yep.
You know.
And for me, I wanna have a high level public speaking engagement.
And you shall.
I'm
We're just putting that out there into the
putting it out
ether.
there in person, no less, not virtual. Standing in front of everybody in person.
I see it. It's gonna happen. Um, okay, so what are some of your favorite recreational forms of creative self-expression and why?
Oh, well, I love crocheting. I love crocheting, knitting. I mean, that's how you and I started talking. Yeah, I love working with my hands, crocheting, knitting, baking. I'm a very tactile person. I find that, especially when it comes to baking and making bread, like it helps me metabolize feelings that I'm having, just
Hmm.
the physical nature of kneading the bread and, getting outside my head.
Hmm.
Um, and so one of the things I use as an analogy for my business and working with people is that in knitting and crocheting, you're always going to come across a tangle, right? And sometimes if you don't pay attention to it, the tangle gets bigger and bigger. That's my favorite though. When I come across a tangle and I have to tease it apart,
Hmm.
and make it and rewind the ball, make it organized.
Hmm.
Like that piece makes me so happy because it requires patience. There's
Yeah.
like a logical thinking of like, okay, it's going in here, so that means I have to take this here. So that part, it really, activates a part of my brain that I'm very strong in. And I used before starting this business, I used to think, oh, I wonder if I can make money if people just send me all their tangled yarns and I'll untangle them and send them back. Like, could I make a living out of that? Because I would love to do that. That would be the best job. By myself, put on some music, got my cup of coffee, and like working through the tangles.
If you can envision it, you can make it happen. um, and so, my final question is, what does spirituality mean to you?
Spirituality means, I believing in a life outside the tangible, right? Believing in a higher being,
Mhm.
not one that has control over everything, but one from which um, a lot of I would say one from which a lot of I would say graces
Mhm.
flow, right? And so I grew up Catholic, and though I haven't been to church in a while, I do I do hold close to my heart all the teachings, that Jesus had, as a as a person of social justice.
Mhm.
And those are, and I think about spirituality, I think about whatever we need to do to take care of ourselves as
Mhm.
people,
Mhm.
um, to know that there's more outside the money, the house, all of that, that we're connected in some way. So therefore, we also have to take care of each other.
Mhm.
Because if one person
Yes.
is if one person falls or is damaged, that has an impact on everyone else. And it may not have an immediate impact on you, but it has an immediate impact on the people around them, which will then trigger impacts everywhere.
Mhm.
So just I guess it would be the feeling that we're all connected.
Absolutely.
But we create things,
Mhm.
but as a whole, that there is a bigger creator who created everything and has asked us to be stewards of these beautiful creations that exist in this world.
I love that. For me, it means understanding a degree of self awareness, like understanding who you are beyond the social constructs, the prescribed social constructs that we live in. Uh, it's an understanding. You are more than the reflection of that society dictates. And
Yeah.
when you know who you are in your inner self, then you're freeing yourself in a way from the binds of society's perceptions of who they think you should be, and you begin to honor who you are and live your authentic self, your life, your authentic life. So I love what you're saying there. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Um, so I would like you to share in closing any where people your social media contact information and any other information, anything else you want to share.
Okay. So right now, excuse me, I have two social media profiles. I'm working on that. Project 5356 is on Instagram, And my name, Catherina Mirasol, I'm on LinkedIn. You'll see my profile picture. It looks just like me. And the photo was taken by a good friend, Juliet Foster, who, also an artist, photographer. But sh I'm on LinkedIn and Instagram right now. So you could see like my past work history, things that I've done on LinkedIn, and Project 5356 is just to start getting my feet wet on Instagram on finding more clients. Eventually, I'm going to have a LinkedIn for my business. So that's
Hmm.
the piece I need to like work on immediately, right? How do I get
Hmm.
myself uh, get more visibility and bring in more clients, etc.
I will make sure those links are in the description and wherever we post. Um, I although we're very early on in our mentorship collaboration, I'm very much enjoying it. You are energetically, as an empath, I energetically it feels really harmonious, and you share insights, leads, links, and it feels good, and I appreciate it. You you of course you're going to tailor the information you send to your clients, and you really have a good handle on that. I really appreciate that about your what we're doing so far.
Thank you, Sheila. I appreciate you saying that. Validation's always good for me.
Well, thank you. So, um, well, with that, we can close the interview unless you have any final words you'd like to share with folks.
Other than, if you want to start your own business, just have the support system, have that community of other people who have their own businesses, because it's very important,
Hmm.
because they're the only ones really who are going to understand what you're going through. So that's very important.
Beautiful.
I want to leave it at that. Have a support system.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your story. I so much appreciate it.
Thank you. All right. Talk again.